Hello everyone. Today will be a part 2 of the previous Usopp video. We have some more complex examples answered by the developers which were given to us through an official ruling on the official Bandai Organized Play Discord. If you want to check this out for yourself, I left a link down in the description below. But for now, let's dive in. If you haven't watched part 1, I would recommend doing so in order to get a full understanding of the complexities behind this leader. The issue lies in the resolution of permanent effects that affect each other. For clarity's sake, I will use the word interact instead of affect to avoid confusion between effect and affect. So the two cards that create these complexities are the Usopp leader and the 8-cost Isho. I will now go through some examples step by step which should give a full understanding of how these two cards interact. Usopp has a base 6-cost Hydrogen on the field. The opponent is the turn player and has an Isho on board. They give a Dawn to Isho and follow it by playing a Tsuru to reduce the cost of Hydrogen further. The question is, what is Hydrogen's cost? Due to 81335, the moment a Dawn is given to Isho, a reassessment or recalculation or whatever you want to call it happens to the interacting permanent effects. This happens without either effect being applied at the start of that process, but with any form of already resolved continuous effect applied. In this situation, no continuous effects interacting with Hydrogen, so we can skip that. Hydrogen is a 6-cost, Isho's effect interacts first and reduces the cost by 3, so Hydrogen's cost is 3. Next, Usopp checks applicability and sees Hydrogen being a 3-cost, so Usopp buffs Hydrogen to 4. Lastly, Tsuru is played and reduces the cost by 2 more, and Hydrogen becomes a 2-cost. So the final result is Hydrogen being a 2-cost. Now let's try it the other way around. The same situation, but now before Isho is given the Dawn, Tsuru is played and reduces the currently 7-cost Hydrogen, which was buffed by Usopp, to a total of 5. Now Isho is given a Dawn. The processing will be as followed. First, all applicable permanent effects are not seen as applied during this processing, but already resolved continuous effects are. This means that the base 6-cost Hydrogen is reduced to 4 by Tsuru before the permanent effects are reassessed. Now Isho reduces the cost of Hydrogen further down to 1, whereafter Usopp checks applicability, sees a 1-cost and does not increase the cost of Hydrogen. To put this in a hopefully easier to understand graphic. So I made this, it is not something official, it's just for me to visualize it much easier in my head. I'm using 3 brackets, where one bracket is the past, one is the present, and one is the future. There's the past, basically what has been, it's already resolved continuous effects. The present, what we are currently processing, and the future, which is basically the outcome of the process. So let's run the examples through this system to understand the processing and outcome of them. Let's first start with Tsuru, who targets a 6-cost Dressrosa character, much like Hydrogen. As Tsuru is a continuous auto effect, we take the bottom half of the system and go from there. First, the past. There are no already resolved continuous effects, so we can ignore that. Next, the present. There is no form of recalculation, so Usopp is already active, making Hydrogen a 7-cost and is then reduced by Tsuru to 5. Then the future, the outcome is that it remains a 5-cost and Usopp is still applicable. Now let's grab the earlier example and add Isho to it. The past, Tsuru has already been resolved, so the -2 is taken into account. Then we go to the present. Here a recalculation happens, as Isho's -cost ability interacts with that cost buff of Usopp. Neither are seen as applied yet, but will resolve in order of turn player, non-turn player. So we have the base 6-cost character, which is reduced to 4 by Tsuru, after which Isho will apply and further reduce it to 1-cost. Now Usopp checks applicability and sees a 1-cost, so he will not apply. Then we go to the future. Usopp already did not apply in the present, so no final check happens. No new interaction between permanent effects is established, so it ends here. Note that currently I am not aware of any form of permanent effects that would create another reprocessing of permanent effects. If that happens, I will probably make a video about it. Then one final interaction to close it all out. Here Usopp has a base 3-cost Dressrosa character, like Bartolomeo, on the field, and the other player has a 3-cost Brook on the field. Bartolomeo is a 4-cost due to Usopp's effect, and Tsuru is played. As you already checked before, the end result is a 2-cost character. Now Brook attacks. His auto effect activates and he reduces the cost of Bartolomeo by 1. Now there are two things that are relevant for this situation. 1. The past, present, future processing, as we did before. 2. Is the processing done before or after Brook wants to KO something? Brook's effect is both a continuous, cost reduction, and a one-shot auto effect. So we take a look at the grid. We see at the bottom part that we have to check any form of already resolved continuous effect. In this case, it would be Tsuru, reducing the cost by 2. Next would be the present. Permanent effects would already be applied. This also counts for Usopp, so he is already buffed Bartolomeo. Now Brook activates and resolves and reduces the cost of Bartolomeo by 1. This means that the character is a 1 cost and Usopp does not apply anymore. He just falls off. This is because permanent effects continuously check applicability. Also, the wording on Brook is to reduce the cost, then KO something. The then is relevant here as it implies order. See my video about replacement effects for more info about that. So far there are no cards that simultaneously reduce a cost and KO a certain cost character, so I cannot say anything about that. However, the cost of Bartolomeo would be 0 the moment Brook tries to KO it, as Usopp would not apply to the now 1 cost character, reducing it to 0. Lastly, there's one question which is answered, but the why is still a mystery. This is about the card I Have My Crew and the interaction between Usopp, that card, and a 1-cost Dressrosa character, for example Rebecca. When Rebecca gets buffed by 3 due to I Have My Crew, Usopp will apply to the base 1-cost character, making it a 5-cost due to the buff from I Have My Crew. Now after the opponent ends their turn, I Have My Crew falls off and the base 1-cost Dressrosa character should remain at 2 cost. Due to Usopp still applying, there should be no reason to recalculate Usopp's permanent effect. However, the official ruling states that it would go back to a 1 cost, so somehow Usopp does not apply anymore, even though normally he can fulfill his own condition. The moment this is known, I will probably create a very small part 3 to address this. That is all. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more rule videos. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. I am the Flying Judgment and thank you for watching.